My mother called me at 11:47 p.m. I was still at my desk. I remember the exact time because I'd been staring at the same paragraph for 40 minutes, trying to figure out how to phrase something delicate in a deposition summary, and my phone lit up the dark room like a small explosion. I almost didn't answer. I thought it was a work notification. Then I saw who it was. My mother never calls me late. She calls my sister at all hours. They talk about everything, those two, the way best friends do. But me? I get the obligatory Sunday afternoon check-in, 11 minutes on average, and then she remembers something she has to do. So when I saw her name at 11,047 on a Tuesday, I felt a small cold thing move through my chest. I picked up. Your sister's engagement dinner is Saturday. She didn't say hello. The Harmons are hosting it at their place in Westport. They want to meet the whole family. Okay, I said. I can make that work. There was a pause, a specific kind of pause I've known my whole life. The kind where she's deciding how to say something she's already decided to say something she's already decided to say. I just need you to be appropriate, Vivian. I set my pen down. Appropriate. You know what I mean. The Harmons are a certain kind of people. Gail Harmon chairs the hospital foundation board. Her husband he's very well respected. I just don't want you coming in and making it about your work or your opinions or Mom. I'm just saying, your sister has worked very hard for this. Tyler is a wonderful man and his family is important, and I need Saturday to go well. So please, she took a breath. Just smile. Be pleasant. Don't bring up politics or your job. Let your sister shine. I didn't say anything for a moment. My job, for the record, is medical malpractice litigation. I've been doing it for 6 years. I'm a senior associate at a firm in Hartford. I have argued in front of state appellate courts. I have won cases that other attorneys handed back to the partners and said couldn't be done. My sister works in marketing for a skincare brand and got engaged 4 months ago to a man named Tyler Harmon, whose family owns 3 urgent care clinics and a medical supply company across Connecticut. But sure, let her shine. I'll be appropriate, I said. Good. Another pause. And Vivian, maybe don't bring up the Alderman case. I know you're proud of it, but that case was in the news and it involved a hospital and Gail's on the hospital foundation board, so it might be, Mom, I'll be fine. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for hours. Okay, dinner is at 7, dress nicely. She hung up. I sat in the dark for a while after that. The deposition summary was still open on my screen. I'd spent 18 months on the Alderman case, a surgical error that left a 23-year-old man unable to walk. We settled for $2.1 million 3 weeks ago. It had been covered in the Hartford Courant and briefly picked up by the AP Wire. My mother had not called to congratulate me. She had called my sister to tell her Tyler proposed, and they stayed on the phone for 2 hours. I turned off my lamp and went to bed. Saturday came the way those days always do. Slow and then suddenly all at once. My sister texted me that morning. So, excited. This is going to be so perfect. Love you. 3 exclamation points. My sister communicates entirely in exclamation points when she's happy, which to be fair is most of the time. She is genuinely one of the more joyful people I know and I love her. In that complicated way you love someone who has always been held a little differently than you. She doesn't know she's the favorite. Or maybe she does and has chosen not to look directly at it. Either way, I've never blamed her for it. It's not her doing. I wore a navy wrap dress. I did my hair. I drove 40 minutes up to Westport with the radio off and the windows cracked because October in Connecticut smells like something you want to hold on to. The Harmon house was exactly what you'd picture. Stone facade, circular driveway, a catering company van parked discreetly around the side, the kind of home where everything is tasteful and nothing is accidental. My parents were already inside when I arrived. My mother saw me come through the door, and her eyes did a quick survey. Dress, hair, shoes, and whatever she found must have been acceptable because she gave a small nod and turned back to the woman she was talking to. My father found me first. Viv. He hugged me. He smells like the same cedar soap he's used my entire life. You look great, sweetheart. Thanks, Dad. He held on a second longer than usual. My father is a quiet man. He always has been. But sometimes in that quiet, there is something that wants to say more and can't find the door. I've never pushed him on it. It's just who he is. Harmon seemed nice, he offered. That's good. Tyler's a good kid, he's nervous. He's what, 32? Nervous like someone who wants to make a good impression? My father smiled slightly, which I respect. I got a glass of wine from a tray a caterer was carrying and found my sister across the room. She was luminous. That's the only word. She was wearing a cream-colored dress and her hair was up, and she was laughing at something Tyler's mother was saying, and she looked like the version of someone's life that you put in a picture frame. I felt a genuine, uncomplicated warmth looking at her. Whatever complicated thing existed between me and my mother, my sister wasn't it. She spotted me and made a small sound and crossed the room and hugged me hard. You came. Of course I came. You look so pretty, I love that dress. She pulled back and held my arms. Okay, I need to introduce you to everyone. Tyler's parents are so nice, you're going to love them, and his aunt flew in from Charleston. In a minute, I said. Breathe. It's your night. Go be with your fiancé. She squeezed my hands and floated back across the room. I stood near the windows for a while. Westport in October. The kind of yard that has a stone wall along the back edge and oak trees that have been there longer than anyone in the house. I watched my mother work the room, animated in a way she rarely was at home, laughing easily, touching arms, being the version of herself she saved for people she wanted to impress. I'd seen this version of her at my sister's volleyball tournaments, at my brother's college graduation party. I'd seen it less often at things that involved me. I wasn't bitter about it. I was just accurate. Dinner was called at 7:30. Long table in the dining room, the kind of setup that takes actual effort. Linen, candles, name cards. I found mine near the middle. My mother was near the head, next to Gail Harmon, which I understood immediately was not an accident. Gail Harmon was exactly who you'd expect from the setup. Silver-haired, gracious, the kind of poise that comes from decades of knowing exactly who you are in any room. Her husband, Warren, sat across from her. He was quieter, mostly listening, with the specific stillness of someone used to watching things unfold before commenting. Dinner conversation moved the way these things do. The engagement, obviously. How Tyler and my sister met. Mutual friends. A hiking trip upstate, 6 months before he asked. Tyler's clinics. My mother's garden club. Wine recommendations. Someone's recent trip to Portugal. I ate my salmon. I smiled when smiled at. I asked Gail a question about the hospital foundation that she seemed genuinely pleased to answer. My mother caught my eye once and gave me a microscopic nod. Good, you're being good. I looked back at my salmon. It was around the second course that Warren Harmon leaned slightly forward and looked down the table toward me. I'm sorry, he said. I've been trying to place it since you came in. Are you Vivian Cass? The table shifted. Not dramatically. Just the way a room does when the current changes. I am, I said. From Merritt and Cass? Merritt, Cass, and Donnelly now, but yes. He sat back. Not in a dismissive way. In the way of someone settling into something they've just confirmed. I thought so. I read about the Alderman case. My mother's wine glass stopped halfway to her mouth. That was a significant outcome, Warren said. He had the measured delivery of someone who chose words carefully. 22 months of litigation. The expert witness strategy in the second phase. I remember reading that and thinking whoever structured that had done something genuinely creative. We had a strong team, I said. You argued the summary judgment motion yourself? I did. How old are you, if you don't mind? 31. He made a small sound, not condescending, more like a notation. I sit on 2 hospital boards, he said. We deal with malpractice exposure as a matter of regular business. Attorneys of your caliber, at your stage, that's not common. He said it plainly, like a fact he was simply reporting. Your firm, Donnelly, runs it now? He's managing partner, yes. I'm senior associate. He picked up his fork again. My cousin has a case working through the system right now. Might reach out to your office. We'd be happy to talk, I said. He nodded and turned back to his plate. The table exhaled, quietly. No one made a scene of it. People picked up their forks and conversations resumed, and the caterers moved in from the side with the next course. But I felt my mother looking at me. I didn't look back. After dinner, people moved to the sitting room. Coffee, dessert, the soft, winding down part of an evening. My sister was on the couch with Tyler, their hands loosely linked, and every time I looked over at them I thought, at least this part is real. Whatever else tonight was, this part was real. Gail Harmon found me near the dessert table. She was warm in a direct way, not performing warmth, just actually warm. She asked how long I'd been in Hartford, whether I liked it, whether I'd grown up in Connecticut. Yes, I told her. Fairfield County, not far from here actually. Your mother mentioned you were in law, she said. She did? I think she said you were in finance law? A slight tilt of her head. Warren seemed to think otherwise. I kept my face easy. I do civil litigation, mostly medical malpractice. She absorbed this. That's quite specific work, demanding, I imagine. It is. But it matters, so? She looked at me a moment. The Alderman case? Warren mentioned it at dinner. I read about it too, actually. The Foundation Board discusses cases like that when they make the news. Good outcomes for patients. She paused. Are you doing something you love? I thought about that, honestly. I'm doing something I think needs doing. I'm not sure love is the right word for it, but I go in every day without having to convince myself to. She smiled. Genuinely, that's a better answer than most people give. She moved on, and I stood with my coffee and I watched my mother across the room. She was talking to Tyler's aunt, laughing, doing the thing she did, and I thought about the phone call Tuesday night and the word appropriate and the way she'd said, let your sister shine, as though my being myself was a threat to that. She must have felt me watching, because she turned. And then something happened that I was not prepared for. Her expression, just for a second, just in that private half moment between one conversation and the next, her expression broke open, not into anger, not into defensiveness, into something I hadn't seen on her face in years, maybe ever. Something that looked a lot like she was seeing me for the first time tonight and didn't quite know what to do with what she was looking at. She turned back to Tyler's aunt. I finished my coffee. I was getting my coat from the front closet when my mother found me. Vivian. I turned around. She was holding her clutch with both hands, which is what she does when she doesn't know what to do with her hands. Warren Harmon is on 2 hospital boards, she said. I know. He knew your name, apparently. He knew your case. She said it quietly. He said your name before I said anything. I zipped my coat. Yes. I didn't know. She stopped. Started again. I didn't realize. I looked at her. There was a long quiet between us that felt different from the long quiets I was used to. Usually the quiet between us is comfortable for her and uncomfortable for me. This one seemed to be the reverse. I've been doing this for 6 years, Mom, I said. Not angry. Just true. I've been doing it, and I've been good at it. That's not new. You haven't been paying much attention. She didn't argue that, which itself was something. The phone call on Tuesday, I said. Her jaw tightened slightly. You called me at midnight to tell me not to embarrass you, in front of people who, it turns out, already know who I am. I let that sit. I don't need you to be proud of me. I stopped needing that a while ago, but I'd like it if you stopped being ashamed of me. Those are different things. She looked like she was going to say something. Then she didn't. I heard my sister's laugh from the sitting room, light and bright and real, and I was glad for it. Dinner was lovely, I said. The Harmons are good people. Tyler seems like exactly the right person for her. I picked up my bag. Vivian? Her voice was different now, quieter. The performance was gone. What was left was just a woman in her 60s who was realizing in a stranger's front hallway that something had gone wrong in a way she couldn't precisely name. I'm sorry about the phone call. I know, I said. I mean it. I know you do. I looked at her for a moment. I'm going to need you to mean it more than once for it to change anything. But I know you mean it tonight. I hugged her. Briefly. She held on a little longer than I expected. I pulled back, said goodnight to my father, waved to my sister across the room. She gave me a big smile and mouthed, "Call me tomorrow," and I walked out to my car. October in Connecticut at 10 p.m. is the kind of cold that's not quite hostile yet, just brisk. The kind that makes you feel like you're in a movie about your own life, walking across a stone driveway to your car while light spills from the windows of someone else's beautiful house. I sat in the driver's seat for a minute before starting the engine. I wasn't victorious. That's the thing people get wrong about moments like that. You don't walk away feeling like you've won something. What I felt was more like tired and honest and strangely okay. I've spent a long time being the kind of person who other people in my family didn't quite know what to make of. I didn't play a sport through high school. I didn't go to the right kind of parties. I went to a state school on a full scholarship and then law school on a partial one, and I worked my way into a firm that takes difficult cases, and I built something real. Slowly. Out of consistent daily effort and a willingness to do the work nobody else wanted to do on the cases nobody else wanted to take. My mother never came to any of my court appearances. She came to every one of my sister's volleyball games through senior year. I don't tell you that to make you feel sorry for me. I tell you that so you understand that what happened in that dining room tonight wasn't a surprise to me. Warren Harmon knowing my name wasn't a miracle. It was just what happens when you keep working. The surprise was my mother's face. That expression in the moment between conversations, when she was looking at me and recalculating something. I've seen her proud of my sister, proud of my brother. I know what her pride looks like. This wasn't exactly that. This was something earlier. Something like realizing she didn't have the full picture. I don't know what she does with that. That's hers to figure out. I started the car and pulled out of the circular driveway and drove south on 95 with the heat on and the radio low, something instrumental that I didn't know the name of, just the shape of it filling the car. My phone buzzed somewhere around Norwalk. I waited until I hit a red light to look. It was my father. "Proud of you, sweetheart. Have been for a long time. Should have said it more. Drive safe." I put the phone down. I sat through the green light and then someone behind me honked gently and I pressed the gas. I didn't cry. I'm not a big crier. But there was a moment somewhere between Norwalk and Bridgeport where I let out a long, slow breath that I felt like I had been holding since Tuesday at 11:47 p.m., and maybe longer than that, honestly. Maybe for years. The road was quiet. My coffee had gone cold in the cup holder. The instrumental thing on the radio shifted into something with the piano, low and steady. I thought about Monday morning, about the new case file sitting on the corner of my desk, a 47-year-old woman, a misread scan, a delayed diagnosis, 2 years of consequences. I thought about the first call I'd have with her, how those calls always go, her being careful, not wanting to seem difficult, apologizing for taking my time, and me saying, same as I always do, "You're not taking my time. This is what I do. Tell me everything." I thought about Warren Harmon saying attorneys of your caliber at your stage. That's not common. I thought about my mother's hands around her clutch in the front hallway. I thought about my sister's laugh. That light, real laugh. I don't need the version of my life where my mother understands me completely. I gave up on that particular version a while ago and found something steadier on the other side of giving it up. What I need, what I actually need, what I have, is the work. And a few people who see it clearly, and the knowledge that I built this myself, one case at a time, in courtrooms my family has never set foot in. That's enough. More than enough. The lights of Bridgeport passed on my left. The water was dark and wide beyond them. I turned the radio up a little and drove the rest of the way home. 2 weeks later, my mother called me on a Sunday afternoon. Not 11 minutes, 43. She asked about the new case, not in the careful, distant way she used to, where she was being polite, but not really listening. She asked a real question. What does the discovery process look like? How do you find your expert witnesses? Is it hard, representing someone through something like that? I answered her honestly. She listened. She didn't apologize again. We didn't have a big conversation about years of history. We're not that kind of family, and I'm not sure we ever will be. But she called, she asked, she listened. I'll take that. Not as a finish line. Just as a beginning. My sister's wedding is next September. She asked me to be her maid of honor last week, standing in my kitchen on a random Wednesday evening, and I said yes before she finished the sentence. She laughed her real laugh and hugged me and knocked over my coffee, and I made another cup, and we sat at my kitchen table until almost midnight talking about nothing in particular. Some things are what they are, and some things slowly become something else. I'm learning, maybe late but not too late, to let both be true at the same time. I've thought a lot about that dinner since it happened, not the part where Warren recognized my name across a table full of strangers. Though I'd be lying if I said that didn't matter to me, because it did. What I keep coming back to is something smaller. The way my mother held her clutch with both hands in that front hallway. The way she didn't argue. Here's what I've come to understand. Slowly and without any grand revelation, the way other people treat you is almost never really about you. My mother spent years measuring my worth against a scale she built from other people's opinions. What looked good at dinner parties, what sounded impressive to the right kind of family, what version of a daughter she could present without explanation. And because I didn't fit that scale neatly, she decided the problem was me. She told me not to embarrass her in a room full of people who already knew my work. That's not cruelty. That's just a person operating on incomplete information and calling it a verdict. The thing about building something real, the way I've tried to build my career, is that it has nothing to do with who's watching. I didn't win the alderman case because my mother was proud of me. I won it because I sat with that case for 18 months and refused to let it be easy. Nobody was there for the depositions that went sideways, the motions I had to rewrite at midnight, the expert witness who almost backed out 3 days before testimony. Those moments don't have an audience. They're just you and the problem, and whether or not you're willing to keep going. That's what I mean when I say effort has its own logic. Not in a mystical sense, just the plain mechanical truth that consistent work compounds over time and eventually becomes visible to people you've never met. Warren Harmon didn't recognize my name because I got lucky. He recognized it because I'd built something worth recognizing. One case file at a time, in courtrooms my family never visited. The part that took me longer to understand is the ethical weight of that. When you do work that matters, real work, the kind that affects real people, you carry a responsibility that has nothing to do with your own recognition. The woman whose case is sitting on my desk right now doesn't care about my complicated relationship with my mother. She cares whether I show up prepared, whether I've thought harder about her situation than the defense has, whether I'll fight for her the way I'd want someone to fight for me. That's the actual work. Everything else is just weather. My mother called 43 minutes on a Sunday 2 weeks later. I noticed. I didn't make a thing of it. But I noticed. Some people shift when the ground under them shifts. My mother, standing in that hallway with her clutch in both hands, was a person who just had her map corrected by reality. That happens to all of us eventually. The question is whether we're honest enough to let it change something. I'm not waiting for a full accounting of the years I felt invisible. I'm not holding that door open anymore. What I'm doing instead is building forward. The cases, the work, the quiet, unglamorous daily act of being someone who does what she said she would do. That's enough to build a life on. I know because I already have.